All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Belvedere City Council regular meeting of October 2nd, 2023. If the clerk will help me with the roll call, please.
Albertini,
Here.
Brereton,
Here.
Fleury,
Here.
Frank,
Here.
Freeman, here. Gramkowski,
Here.
McGee,
Here.
Mulhall, Porter, Snow,
Here.
8 present.
Okay, if you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, we pray to thank you for our country, our community, our families, and our freedom. Lord, we thank you for our current military service members and for the men and women veterans who have served and sacrificed throughout our nation's history. We ask that you bless all those and their families. And we give thanks for our police and fire first responders in our community and throughout our country who bravely serve our citizens no matter what. We appreciate their concern for us, and we pray for their safety and well-being. We pray for guidance and that you give each of us compassion, patience, understanding, courage, and wisdom as we conduct our city's business here this evening. We pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Hang on a second. It's not here. Shouldn't be.
Okay, we had a little technical difficulty. Under item 3, we have public comment. We have Mr. James Lee registered tonight. Hi, James. Come on up. If you just state your name, please. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Proper name, James Lee, go by Jim Lee. I'm a resident of Belvedere since 1995, and I'm a member of the Ida Public Library Board of Directors, and I'm chairperson of the nominating committee. A little other background for me, I started teaching history in the city of Chicago in 1969, so some of you I could almost have taught your grandmothers. And I taught government and the whole bit. Concern that I have is more in a process than in a legality, and it has to do with the selection of new members to the Board of Trustees. So the statute, I know the statute says that basically the mayor can select a candidate, present them to the board, and that was the process. At some point, and I don't know where, and I haven't had time to really go back and look, but it's as far back as anyone can remember, the library initiated a process, and it was acted upon, and that had become the way things had been done for a long time. To me, that establishes some type of a precedent. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not an attorney. But at any rate, what brought me here tonight is that there was a little deviation in the way things work. So I've been on the board for a while, and every candidate that we have has come to us with an application. We haven't turned down anybody. We haven't turned down one person who wants to be on the library board. And then, we interview the person, we kind of vet them to a certain extent, then it goes to the full board, the board votes on them, and then it comes to City Hall. And from City Hall, it goes to something which I think is called the Committee of the Whole. I have no idea what that is or what they do. And then it goes to the entire group here, and you all vote on them. And we've never had one candidate rejected. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? The other thing is I know that what happens here, the real business of government doesn't happen here. It happens in other places. and then it just comes to fruition when it reaches this room. But I just want to go through what I understand to be the process, and I don't have all the pieces. I just have, and the other thing you should be aware of is there are a lot of rumors about this circulating, and a lot of rumors have come to my attention. Now, I'm an old man, and I've learned not to believe in rumors or trust them. But I also like to try to get to what's really happening in terms of the situation. So I'm just going to, this thing has been rewritten about 20 times. And I'm at 3 in the morning and going through it and everything. And then I redid it again because I thought I only had 3 minutes. Now I have 5. Oh, boy, I need a half hour, but I'm going to speed it up. So this is the knowledge that I have, and some of it may not be quite accurate. The library submitted, this part is because I was part of it. The library submitted an application for a new board member in July of 2023, and the application never made its way to the city council for consideration. Okay, it just didn't happen. And I don't know why it didn't happen. We thought she was good. Maybe she was an axe murderer. I don't know. But she never got to this lovely chamber. So in the meantime, another candidate was selected by the mayor, and the normal process was they would enter an application with the library. Whoever the candidate was, we never got an application, and from what I can tell, the usual process was kind of skirted around. I believe it's a good idea to have cooperation between the library and the city. I also believe we need improvement in communication. I'm just as at fault as anybody. I should have called you, and we should have had a meeting at some point. Never happened. My fault, maybe your fault too. I don't know. We never talked, so I can't make a judgment on that. I also believe we need improved communication. And in that light, I think we should develop a plan. What vehicles are we going to create so that this type of thing doesn't happen again? Okay? I would like to, and then I have a solution, and I know nobody's going to like it. Well, a couple people might like this solution, but I got to put it out there anyway because I don't like bitching about something and not having at least some type of a resolution to what the problem is. Okay? That gets my goat when people just bitch and moan and they don't have a solution. And this may not even be a good solution, but it may be a start for a talking point. And if that happens, glory hallelujah, God is good. Okay, so what I would like to see happen is that the city council, when they vote on the mayor's candidate today, would be to say no now. The second piece of this is that I would like to ask that the previous candidate's application be resurrected and sent to the city council for consideration, because I think this is a viable candidate. If there's something wrong with the candidacy, we want to know, and you can vet that person also. Later, when an opening, if this all happens, later, when an opening of the library board becomes available, I would invite the mayor's candidate to submit an application to the library board, be subjected to the normal process, and then be submitted to the city council for consideration. This person could be the best thing to happen to the Ida Public Library. I don't know. I've heard rumors from everything. He's a great guy to, oh, he's hard to work with. I have no idea. So this is what I propose. I'm not going to hate anybody if you don't follow it. I've been turned down a lot by a lot of things. You have to give my wife some wisdom. This was pared down for a very long speech. And when I was talking, I was a little angry, and I said some things. And she, around the breakfast table, she said, "Don't poke the bear." And I'm not sure who is the bear here, but I don't consider you a bear, but I had unkind thoughts. I really did, but that's fine. We have room in our democracy for everybody, and there's a seat at the table for everybody. And here's my religious belief: when we cross over and we get at the banquet, I'm probably going to be sitting next to the person I have hated most in this lifetime, and I better learn how to deal with that. So God bless you all, and thank you for your time.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Allen. That is my appointment. Yes, sir. Oh, come on up. Does anybody have any?
Anybody have any questions?
Okay.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Well, thank you, Mr. Allen. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, we do have that on our agenda a little bit later on this evening, so if there's any questions regarding the process or any of that, I think we can entertain that. I will quickly say that, you know, it would be nice, sometimes we get no applicants, we get no interest in some of these offices or some of these appointments that I have to make. I make those appointments. I said sometimes we get no applications, no interests, no resumes, no interest in some of these appointments that that I make. In this case, we've had more than one applicant or individual that's interested. But we are gonna, I did propose, I did send to the council an individual that I think is fine. I'm not discounting that, you know, the other individual is not. Actually, there's more than two. So I'm not discounting that at all. I'm just saying at some point or other, that's a decision that, you know, is invested in me, and I take it serious, and that's it. So, but
It's helpful for us to know that process, you know. I think
Yeah.
we have two processes possibly going on.
Well, I think historically you may have had, and I have appointed directors, a trust to the Library Board of Trustees. I have appointed on several occasions. I have made appointments. They perhaps were the only one that I had, I think, at the time. That's the only individuals I would get as somebody who was interested. And then in this case, that wasn't so, and so I made the choice. But there was no ill will towards you or any of the Board of Trustees or that individual. It was just a decision that I had made. And
Normally don't have a long line of people looking for that position.
no, we don't.
And I didn't know that there was another process in place,
Well,
so it would be helpful, that's where the communication part
Yeah.
would be helpful, so.
well, I guess probably the way that we solve that is to pick up a phone. You're right, we do have a phone. But, you know, it is my decision, it is my appointment. I would ask for the council, I will ask for the council to validate that, and that'll be up on the agenda later this evening.
And I respect that, I really do. I just, I can only operate with the knowledge that I have. And I may be remiss to a certain extent for not doing more due diligence in terms of finding out what other, I didn't know it was a dual process, because it's never come to the floor, you know?
Yeah.
It's been something that, so, as luck would have it, you were okaying the people we sent to you,
I was.
maybe only because there was nobody else.
Well, you know, I take it seriously on who I appoint, and that's how I look at it. It's my appointment. I want somebody that I feel, you know, is the best. I'm sure, people may not understand that, but it is a responsibility that I have. But I do appreciate it, Mr. Lee, and I will definitely, we will stay in closer contact. How's that?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you for coming.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Okay, item 4, approval of the minutes. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Belvedere City Council dated September 18th, 2023, as presented. You have them in your packet. Could I get a motion to approve? A motion by Alderman Fleury, second by Alderwoman Graham-Kowski. Is there any corrections, any errors that anybody noticed? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. And if there's any opposed, motion passed, thank you. And item 5, under public hearing, we have, I will open a public hearing for the annexation agreement relating to real property generally located west of Irene Road, north of US Route 20 and south of Union Pacific Railroad. We will open the public hearing for any input we'll call it 6:14 p.m. And if there's anybody in the public who wishes to comment on the annexation agreement relating to that real property, you may have the floor. Any questions? We did, for the record, we did post notice of public hearing for this annexation agreement. It was posted September 14th in the Boone County Journal, for the record. And seeing nobody wanting to discuss this, I will close the public hearing. We'll call it 6:15 p.m. Thank you. And item 6, under special messages and proclamations. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we normally, my predecessors as well, have normally had a proclamation to recognize domestic violence awareness and all of the bad things that go with it. I would appreciate, I see Judge Tobin, Rob Tobin is here, if the judge would join me up here, and I'll read this proclamation. I appreciate you being here, Judge. Thank you.
My pleasure, thank you.
All right. In the city of Belvedere, in recognition of the important work done by survivors, domestic violence programs, and victim service providers, I urge all citizens to actively participate in the scheduled activities and programs sponsored by the Family Violence Coordinating Council and other community organizations to work towards the elimination of all forms of domestic violence. Whereas across the U.S. and its territories, more than 10 million adults experience domestic violence annually. On a typical day, domestic violence hotlines nationwide receive over 19,000 calls. Whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting individuals and society as a whole here in this community and throughout the United States and the world. And whereas domestic violence crosses all socioeconomic lines, including but not limited to race, ethnicity, gender, age, education, employment, and marital status. And whereas in the state of Illinois, approximately 3,227 domestic violence victims are served in one day, including seeking assistance in emergency shelters, transitional housing, counseling, legal advocacy, and support groups. And whereas in the year 2022, the Belvedere Police Department and the Boone County Sheriff's Department received approximately 725 calls for domestic-related incidents. In addition, over 276 emergency orders of protection were requested in Boone County. And whereas the City of Belvedere joins with others across Illinois, including the judicial system, as well as local programs, state coalitions, national organizations, and other agencies nationwide who are committed to supporting victims of domestic violence, increasing public awareness of domestic violence, and sending a clear message to abusers that domestic violence is not tolerated in Boone County. And now, therefore, I, Clinton Morris, Mayor of the City of Belvedere, hereby do proclaim October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I want to thank Judge Tobin for being here. He's been gracious, at least so far since I've served as mayor. The last three years he has been here. And part of it is he represents our judicial system with domestic violence, and he understands it as well or better than anybody else. Also, I know that the staff that he works with have a very real understanding of it, and I appreciate your service, Judge, and I appreciate you coming here this evening. It isn't something that we are proud of, but it is something that we need to recognize. So With that, I want to give this to you, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I also, if you want to say a few words, Judge, I'd love to have you.
Well, just keep it real short, beautiful night out there. The only thing new since last time I saw you guys, first of all, I don't know if anybody knew, Gina's on our local committee too, and I want to thank for the borrowing her here once a month or so. But the one thing that is different is starting at September 18th, we've got that no bail system going, no cash bail. Again, not trying to open up a can of worms here. I know the police chief's having fun with it. But one of the things that legislation did protect is domestic violence, people that are arrested for domestic violence, if they are a danger to the alleged victim, they can stay in custody until trial. So again, when you hear everybody's getting let out, they at least do have a provision in there to protect victims of domestic violence that can keep their attacker in custody until trial. And so that's sort of the only thing here. Otherwise, if anybody's got any questions, great. Otherwise, it is beautiful out there, and it's already October. I don't want to keep anybody in here any longer than they have to. Anything?
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thanks again,
Thanks
Judge.
again.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Yep.
Side note, trial by battle is not working right now.
All right, and then with us this evening, item B, Sister Cities Association of Belvedere, who received the 2023 Illinois Sister City of the Year Award. I have here tonight Linda Castro Sabana. Hi, Linda. Thank you for coming here this evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name again is Linda Castro Sabina. I'm the Vice President of the Sister Cities Association of Belvedere. Mike Chamberlain is our president, but is unable to make it tonight, so you have me to listen to. Recently, back in April, we were awarded the Illinois Sister Cities of the Year Award at a convention in Rockford that was hosted by the Rockford Sister Cities and collaborated with the Belvedere also. So it was a wonderful evening, and we received the award. And this past month, we were recognized by the Illinois Municipal League in Chicago downtown. And we were presented and recognized through them to be the Illinois Sister City Award. So that being said, we, the Sister Cities of Belvedere, would like to share this award with the city of Belvedere. So I know our founding members would have been very proud to receive this, and we are very proud that and we want to thank you, all the council, for all the support you have given us throughout the years, and we would not have achieved this without the support of the council, and so we thank you for that very much. I also, thank you. Yes, I also wanted to, I'm going to have some ladies help me with some information. I have some pamphlets of the Sister Cities. I don't know if any of you all know about the Sister Cities. I'm just going to give you a brief history that's inside this pamphlet. Sister Cities was founded by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1956, after World War II. Our first sister city was Schwieberdingen, Germany, and that was in 1988 that Belvedere formed a union with them. In 1999, we formed a union with Vanapanaw, and all three sister cities are tri-sister cities, so it's not like we're just sister cities to Germany and sister city of France. All three of us are joined together. We are very happy to announce, too, that next year we are going to be hosting 30 to 40 adult ambassadors next year here in Belvedere. So we're looking really forward to doing that. I wanted to stress a little bit about Sister Cities. We do have a youth program, and we do send our youths to Germany and France every year, but it is not, we also promote exchanges for all of the ages, all ages. All of our board members have either been to either one or two sister cities throughout the years that they've been members. So that being said, I just wanted to let you know that we are an organization that is striving to promote culture for our youth. They become responsible citizens, you also received a letter, a testimonial from a young lady. She was a youth ambassador from Germany in 2012, and she just wanted to explain to her how Sister Cities has affected her. We also have a board member on our board right now who is a 2012 youth ambassador. She is our recording secretary, Alyssa Wolf. So that being said, these youth ambassadors, they get these experiences early on, become community leaders, such as yourselves, and promotes whatever they can, and now they have global interaction and communications globally. So this is a very important organization to promote our young people and further their education, their futures, and whatever they can achieve throughout their years. So I'd like to thank you very much for the opportunity that you have given me to talk to you tonight, okay? Any questions? Also, I invite you to join Sister Cities. We have a lot of new activities that we are starting to do, fundraisers. We did win Best Choice, People's Choice for our Oktoberfest chili this past year. And so we are looking forward to doing a lot of new and exciting new things. Do you have any questions? And if you do like to join, feel free to reach out to one of us. There's a website on the brochure, and we'd be happy to have you join us, okay? Also, in consideration when the time is funding, we really would like to appreciate your consideration for any kind of funding. Anything would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Linda. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate it. And I have had the good fortune of meeting some of the exchange students that have come over here to visit from France and Germany. Nice young people, certainly. And they've been up here, and I have had an opportunity to meet them. And I know Mr. Peters, Brad Peters, was up here just recently, and thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. So. All right, we'll move on. Item 7, approval of expenditures. We have none this evening. Item 8, committee reports and minutes of city officers. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole, Public Safety, Finance, and Personnel of September 25th, 2023, as presented. If I could have a motion to that effect, please. Motion by Alderman Albertini, thank you. And a second by anyone who wishes. Thank you. Alderman McGee, thank you. You've had a chance to look at them. If there's any corrections or concerns. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes, please say aye. Aye. And if there's any opposed. Motion passed, thank you. And item 9, under unfinished business, that being second reading, an ordinance revising this for year 2024 budget adopted by the ordinance 622H. That is in your packet this evening, and I would ask for a motion to approve, please. Motion by Alderman Albertini, and a second. Second by Alderwoman Graham-Kowski. And any questions? Alderman Snow.
So just for the audience and everybody else, so what we're doing here is we are raising the budget for the finance director from 86,872 to 106,000 that the mayor can exercise up to. I was a little surprised that none of that verbiage was in the on the agenda. That being said, I am not going to be voting yes for this.
Okay. Anybody else? Alderman Burden.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I wasn't here when this was discussed, and I guess I missed it in my packet here, and I'm just now seeing it. But again, not much to it on the agenda here. So my initial questions, which were just answered, is why are we doing this and for how much? But now I'll just ask, so why are we doing this? This was already addressed at budget time, so why are we doing this in the middle of the budget year?
Well, I don't think you've been here for a while. I think you've been absent, so maybe you aren't up to speed. I will say that what I had done when I had hired our finance director, I had tried to live within the budget amount that we had. And we had an outgoing finance director that was making more money than I was able to hire our current finance director. With that being said, I also want to keep her. I want to keep them. And the comparables that have been put out with surrounding communities, we had went over them, Alderman Byrd and I'd went over them at committee level, and I'd went over them before. But my intent is to be able to keep a great finance director who, according to the comparables, who's underpaid. And I guess I would look at it like this. If that individual is underpaid, when I had originally filled that position, I was told by Alderman Snow, actually, that he didn't think that I should fill it for the amount of money that we were going to pay that, our new finance director. We got that at a bargain. But in the past, we've also had a very difficult time keeping finance directors who have been women. They have been women. And, you know, my point is, and I brought this up before, is this seems like it's sexist. And the reason I say that is because both of those left after they weren't given comparable salaries to what other communities pay their finance directors, so they left. And as the individual Alderman Snow had mentioned to me, whenever I hired this individual at a bargain price, he had said, I think he had voted against her, actually hiring her at the amount of money that I had asked the council to approve, and it was low pay. But he had mentioned, and if I'm taking words out of his mouth, then he can correct me, and don't let me ramble on if I have a correction coming. But I think it was the comparables were 130 to 135,000 for that position. Go ahead.
So, to the best of my recollection, when this came up, I was in favor of getting up to 130,000 in order to get somebody who was going to be qualified for that position. And based on what was presented to me, I did not think the finance director we currently have was qualified. And I believe that in the future, if that individual leaves, then I would be in a position to think that, yes, we need to raise the ante in order to get somebody qualified to fill that position. On the other note, I don't think this has anything to do male or female at all, and I find it slightly offensive, and I've mentioned this in other meetings, that I think that's not the issue at all.
Well, if you're offended by it, all I can tell you is that that is exactly what did transpire. We've had two finance directors who have been women that we have refused to pay accordingly, and I think that's wrong. And I've said this before, and you weren't here, Alderman Barradin, but I had said, you know, on behalf of my wife, on behalf of my mother, on behalf of my sister, on behalf of my niece, on behalf of my aunt, and behalf of every female friend that I have, I think it is sexist, and I think it's wrong. And if it isn't sexist, then I don't know how you would portray it any other way. Because the fact is that the two individuals that we have lost prior were underpaid, and they happen to both be women. So do I think it's sexist? And if you're offended by it, Alderman Snow, well, you know, that's not my problem. My problem is that I don't want to let an individual go that is doing a magnificent job. Now, if you've had issues, we've had our finance director here for over 2 years. Your concern was whether she is qualified or not. I would say she's extremely qualified, and she has proven that. So the point is, do you want to go ahead and let somebody go, or do you want to underpay them? And why? Why would you want to do that? And then potentially, we bring somebody else in, and we're going to pay them an unknown quantity, and we're going to charge the taxpayers $130 or maybe $135 or more. So I've asked the authority to pay somebody the comparable, which is under $106,000. It's under the comparables, way under the comparables. I will guarantee you that if we have to make this higher again, I'll be coming back to the same council asking for probably $29,000 to $35,000 more of taxpayer money and ask you to hire somebody else. We were fortunate, but it doesn't mean we take advantage of people. And it certainly smacks of sexism to me. I think it's sexist. And that's because all of my department heads, we pay a lot more money to the department heads. And this job runs a budget, balances a budget of $24 million, the city budget, and does a phenomenal job with grant writing, obtains grants that the city, otherwise I would not be able to get it. I would not be able to get them. I would not be able to obtain them. I have had $2.4 million worth of grant money that we've been able to get from the state. I've got another additional $1 million that I've been able to get from help with our state representatives. Another $300,000 that I'm trying to get help with too, that I believe we'll get. But it just doesn't happen by saying, yeah, I'll take the money. Trust me on that one. If anybody knows anything about red tape and bureaucracy, you know that you've got to be able to fill out the paperwork to be able to get that money, and you have to be able to do it in a short order of time, or you lose it. So the question is whether or not we are getting what we pay for, and I think we are. We're getting much, much more than that. But I truly believe that because we have had women in these positions, that they're not being paid a commensurate amount of pay. Now, like I said, some people may be offended, but I'm offended that we do that. So, Alderwoman Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that all we have to do is ask the director or the department heads, like the fire chief, the police chief, and the Director Anderson, but he's not here, what she's done for their budgets to help them. And I would say they'd probably give her a glowing review.
Chief Shadle?
Thank you, Your Honor. One piece of information that is important to this discussion. Since taking over the ambulance service, we've had to set up numerous accounts. We've had to set up, of course, Medicare, Medicaid accounts, accounts we didn't know existed. Shannon has been going to every weekly meeting for all of those and has stayed on task. She's continued to work with the billing company to say, hey, we haven't followed up on this or we haven't followed up on that. And every time they've asked her something, she has gotten it done right away, all the way, and done everything that they've asked. I don't know, Shannon, how many accounts you had to set up, but we had to get set up to receive payments not only from Medicare, but also different clearing firms that work with different insurance companies. And all that had to be set up, something that the previous finance director never had to do. She was able to not only get it all done, but get it all done quickly. I think that's important to the discussion. And so, additionally, we never had our finance director attend our pension meetings. Those are quarterly, so not as frequent as weekly. But she's been going to all of them and I think that's really important because the more we know about what is going to help our taxpayers pay the least over time, it's really a complex issue. And those meetings go from, we start at 8 and ours gets done at 10, and then the police start theirs, and then that goes, and that's, like I said, quarterly. So she's been doing that. There's been those differences and new things that she's picked up like she has always done them. So I think it's important for your consideration to know that, especially with the ambulance billing, reconciling those reports that come monthly. We had to open new bank accounts. When we bought the engine, she was able to get 3 bids for loans in like 3 days to save money on those interest rates even lower than what we had. So I do appreciate the question because that was going in my mind. I think it's important for the discussion, and so I just wanted to give you guys that information.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Woody?
Somebody took our microphone. No, yeah, I appreciate the question as well, because we do work very close with the finance director. And I think originally the base wage was probably commensurate to her experience in that particular area. Over the last 2 years, I've had the opportunity to work fairly closely with the finance director in several different areas, and she has demonstrated that if she doesn't know something, she'll research it. And that's probably one of the things that has most impressed me about her, because we handle a lot of different technical areas in terms of financing. With bank accounts, we deal with the federal government, with asset forfeiture, and there's a lot of things that aren't necessarily easy to understand. And she has gone, in my opinion, above and beyond to make up that experience gap over the last couple of years. And because I don't know specifically what I'm sorry. I don't know what the comparables are for that particular position, but ultimately, if it is truly $130,000, $140,000 for $106,000 for that position, it's still a bargain for what I've seen her do. She does go to great lengths to save the city money. If you talk about making sure that people within the city stay within the rules and regulations of what the city's supposed to pay for as far as, taxes and things like that, to the point where, it's something that we probably weren't as vigilant with in the past. And it's hard to say how much additional money the city may have paid that they weren't required to. But I think for me, like I said, it's her willingness to try and learn and recognize maybe some of those areas that she didn't come into the position with the experience. But based off of what I've experienced over the last couple of years, you wouldn't know it. If we're dealing with the same questions, same situations in year 2, I wouldn't have guessed that 2 years ago she didn't. She came into it with the experience or lack thereof that she did. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm quite satisfied with the work the finance director does.
Thank you, Chief. Alderwoman Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my personal opinion that our last finance director was a train wreck. And the last administration, as well as some people in this room, advocated for paying her $120,000 a year in one of our budgets. Shannon worked circles around the last one, who ultimately left for substantially more money. and then ended up coming back to the county for also substantially more money. I believe Shannon is worth every penny of this proposal, and whether it's sexist or not, I don't know, but I do have a belief that you will never find a man to do this job for what she makes.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Gramkowski, then Alderman Albertini.
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, I'm sorry you have to listen to the debate about your salary. That's uncomfortable for anyone to have it justified. I think it's justified, being in the HR business. I see what people make that have a finance background. Everything I've heard, and I've just heard 2 testimonials from department heads, I don't know what other qualifications are you looking for? Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Albertini and then Alderman Brereton.
Okay, I have a question for the council. Does anyone here feel that Shannon is not qualified for the job? And if so, why? Because if you don't have a good reason, I can't see somebody who is qualified for the job for us to put her in jeopardy of losing just to hire somebody else who was just as qualified and have to pay them another $20,000 on top, or $25,000 on top of what we're asking today. Why would you want to do that? So if anybody feels she is not qualified, I'd like them to tell me now why. Okay, I see nobody is feeling she's not qualified. Well, in that case, I don't see why you would jeopardize having to hire somebody else that's not going to be any more qualified and have to pay an additional $20,000 to $30,000 more later, and on top of it, have to wait for them to get to speed to catch up again, and maybe make a mistake in between trying to catch up. So my feeling is you should jump on board with this, and let's get it done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Brereton.
Thanks again, Mayor. So I appreciate that Director Hansen is doing well at her job. Thank you, Director Hansen, for that. But again, why are we not waiting till the budget process? I know this was discussed the last budget and it went back and forth. But so we're doing it in the middle of the year. Am I hearing all this talk about losing the director? Where's the director going? So if she's going somewhere if we don't give her a $20,000 pay raise, is that right?
I think like anybody, Alderman Brereton, I think like anybody, whenever there's another better opportunity, I think they look at those opportunities. I'm not going to speak for Ms. Hansen. It's already difficult enough. I think it puts individuals in a precarious spot, but as long as we're talking about, potentially there are other communities that are looking to hire finance director, and they pay a lot more than we do. And if I have an opportunity to keep an employee that does a wonderful job for the city, for the taxpayers, and I can prevent losing them, and as Alderman Albertini said, and then hire somebody, come back to you and ask you to now hire somebody that's going to cost us, the taxpayers, more money, and I can prevent that, then yeah, that's a good bargain. So go ahead.
Thanks again. So then does Director Hansen get another raise come budget time then again on top of this?
What do you mean another raise?
Well, we're gonna give her $20,000 on top of the raise we just gave her the last budget process, so then the next budget we'll have to give her some more money, right?
She will get paid in a raise potentially, whatever the council approves. Sure.
Okay. Well, I oppose
whatever you
this.
approve. And Alderman Snow, you were not forthright. Whenever I had asked individuals whether or not they had objected, it was my understanding that you were fine with it. And that's what brought me here this evening. So don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that, Alderman Snow. You know the game. So anyhow, you weren't forthright, and I think that's a shame. But the bottom line is that do I think that it's sexist? You bet I do. And do I think that it's a bad deal for the taxpayers? You bet I do, and it's going to be a bad deal for the taxpayers when I come back and I point to you and ask me to find me a candidate that does as good a job as the finance director that we have, even close, for the kind of money that we pay, and then we can explain why we did that. Because that's ridiculous. If the individual is paid a comparable, that's fine. But this doesn't even get to that. And the fact is that it's only happened in this position, and it's happened with women. So you can deduce and you can make excuses for it as much as you like. Alderwoman Gramkowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Alderman Freeman. I don't think that we would find a male that would settle for this salary. But also, Alderman Brereton, I'm in the recruiting business. We recruit heavily, whether people are happy at their jobs or not. And you know what? That's our job. We go and make a better offer for them. Everybody wants to do better. So it doesn't matter what's going on. I'm sure that Shannon gets a lot of job offers or a lot of outreach to her. I think everyone that has a job probably does.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, you have this before you. We have a motion and a second. All right, we have that before you this evening, that being Ordinance 639H, an ordinance revising the four-year fiscal year 2024 budget adopted by Ordinance 622H. All those in favor of will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Albertini,
Aye.
Brereton,
No.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman, Gramkowski,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Snow,
No.
6 in favor.
We
Oh.
have one
Sorry.
wanted to, Alderwoman Mulhall, just, that's okay. Thank you for coming. Alderwoman Mulhall just entered for the record at 6:52 p.m. Thank you.
Sorry.
What? Yes, so Alderwoman Mulhall, where we're at is we're on item 9A, ordinance 639H for second reading. And that is to go ahead and amend our budget ordinance in order to compete, to be able to keep our finance director. I have asked for authorization to raise that salary from $86,872 to not to exceed $106,000. My point, and I will tell you this, I think I've made this point before, that I believe that we have had two finance directors in the past, both being women. We are not paying a comparable salary. That bothers me for all the reasons I've stated before. For any woman, for any woman. I think that it's sexist when you don't pay people for what they're worth. And I think that these positions have not been paid accordingly to the comparables. I don't want to come back here and I don't want to lose an individual that is underpaid as a department head and then come back to you with a comparable for maybe $29,000 to $35,000 more, and hire somebody who is an unknown. I have always advocated for employees that I think are excellent for the city, but especially when they're underpaid. And I find it when they're underpaid with a history of being women, then that bothers me, and I think we need to do better than that. I think that stands for everything that I'm against. Now, Alderman Snow, if he wants to speak, he can speak for himself or any other alderman. that wants to debate this issue, Alderman Brereton. But anyhow, that's where we're at, so. Okay. And so, we are in the middle of the vote.
Get a recap of what the current vote is?
So, do you want me to go
The
through
amount-
everybody?
the amounts.
Okay. Right, I don't remember, did you vote yet, Snow? Yep, that's what okay.
Yeah.
So we have right now, 6 in favor and 2 against.
So, if you have any questions, Alderwoman Maha.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize for my tardiness today. Just to be clear, the motion on the floor is exactly as it reads in our packet, or the request,
Yes,
up to 106,000.
that is correct.
Thank you.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Okay, and I will vote aye. And it passes. Motion passed. Thank you. And I will say this, you know, I am not a career, I'm not a career politician here, so it's easy for me to do the right thing. And that is the right thing. We would be certainly not, it would be malfeasance of office if we completely reject comparables and then we come back to our bosses, the taxpayers, and we bill them another $35,000 for a position that is underpaid and that we want to keep. And I appreciate the council, I appreciate the aldermen and alderwomen that see it that way. I'm very grateful. I think that's honest and I think it's forthright. So thank you very much for that. Moving on, we have Ordinance 640H as a second reading, that being an ordinance authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement between the City of Belvedere and Midwest Refrigerated Services, Inc. and Alliance Development Corporation. Motion by Alderman Snow, second. Second by Alderman Albertini. Thank you. Alderwoman Freeman.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Freeman, hold on just a second. I think there's something pertinent here. We have an amendment on this, and I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney.
Correct. What I'm going to be recommending is a motion to amend, not the ordinance that's in your packets. The one that you received is actually the correct ordinance that we're asking you to vote upon. The ordinance that was introduced for first reading had the owners identified as Donald K. Bush, I think it's senior, might be junior. Immediately before the first reading, before we even knew about it, the MRS company, actually it's Alliance, closed upon the purchase of the property, so the Bushes no longer own it. So what we're recommending is a motion to amend ordinance 640H to remove any reference to Donald K. Bush.
Okay, we have a motion to amend by Alderman Snow, second by Alderwoman Mohal. Any questions on the motion to amend? Alderwoman Mohal?
With the new name being,
It's actually,
Or not.
it's Alliance. They're already in there, and they're identified in the new ordinance that's before you, as well as the agreement as the current owners of the land.
The Bush name will be stricken. Okay. Any other questions? Alderwoman Freeman?
This is just a vote to amend that portion?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions on the amendment, hearing none, all those in favor will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Brereton,
Aye.
Fleury,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman. Gramkowski,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Mulhall,
aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Albertini.
Aye.
9 passed.
Okay, the amendment passes, and so we have the motion as amended. Is there any questions regarding that motion? Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you, Your Honor. So, part of my question was who owns this property at the current time? Because it was my understanding that this whole Midwest Refrigeration was contingent upon a grant. And if the grant falls through, so goes the project. So my question is, now that apparently Midwest owns this, it was gonna be like, so with this annexation, if that project falls through, what does this do to the property value or the marketing value of that? Is Midwest just gonna sit on it and nobody's ever gonna be able to develop that until they sell it? And because we've annexed it, it's jacked up in price? How does that work?
I'll start with all indications that Midwest Refrigerated Services Alliance have every intent and desire to try and do the project in Belvedere. You're right. One of the keys in that project is state funding through the grant, through the state. They cannot take a meaningful step forward on the project itself until they get the answer on that grant. To do so would jeopardize the grant, which is one of the reasons why it appears before you in the status it is now. Worst case scenario, the city's actually in a better position now than it would have been if it wasn't annexed. Because it's already in the city, because there's already plans for water and sewer, it does make it more marketable if the project were to fall through and they were to decide to sell and bring in another development. The reality is they're a very large corporation. They service a lot of clients. If this project were not to happen, chances are they'd have another project for us in the relatively near future. So in the worst case scenario, say the grant does fall through, they elect not to proceed with this project because of their timelines, the city is still in a better position after this annexation than it would be before. We have the additional tax dollars from the rezoning. We'll have the additional expansion of our corporate boundaries and the path for the water and the sewer.
Thank you. Any other question? Alderman Snow?
And that brings up an interesting thing. For some reason, it did snafu. If I recall right, the water main was supposed to go through the property as kind of a, like a determined easement. Whoever purchased it doesn't have to give the easement, or is that already tied in with the annexation?
It's tied in through the annexation agreement that there could be a water main on the northern part of the property in proximity to the railroad, or on the south, actually, either way, but anticipated is on the north end. I will point out also, what we did build into the annexation agreement is there can be no development on the property unless there's a special use for planning to development, you have to come back before the city council. So we also have a second bite at the apple, so to speak, with any development on the property.
Any other questions? I will update you on the grant because the grant is pertinent. Obviously, we want to have MRS here. We want to have them develop. The city has made an application on their behalf, and I know that, again, when I talk about, trying to obtain money for projects like this, it's not easy. It is not easy, but I had a brief discussion with Finance Director Hansen, and that had run into a little bit of snafu. I don't mean to put you on the spot because I didn't get to talk to you before the day's end. However, do you have any kind of an update on that? Because I know there was some paperwork that had to be shuffled or redone, and so anyhow.
Sure. So we did actually submit a draft application and have been working with the grant manager who just had us make a few revisions. And that actually, our second blush for the application was actually submitted this morning. So hopefully we will hear back soon.
Okay. And the lawyer Hirsch, Jim Hirsch is here. Attorney Hirsch is here if anybody has any questions for him, but I think we've covered it. We want them to locate here. We want to bring jobs. We want to bring revenue to the city. And it's part of an economic plan that is a winner for our community. And if we take these steps, I think it's in the right direction. And hopefully, if we can get the state to accept the grant, then believe me, we will try and do everything we can to be able to make sure that the grant process doesn't run into any red tape and that it can be streamlined in order for MRS to be able to get what they need to make that project work. So it's it's a relationship that works well. but we're all after the same end. So anyhow, if there are no other comments or questions, we have a motion on the floor then. That is to approve that ordinance 640H. All those in favor of the motion will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman. Gramkowski,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Albertini,
Aye.
Brereton.
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And then we have before you this evening, item C, ordinance 641H for second reading. That being an ordinance annexing certain territory lying north of US Route 20, west of Irene Road and south of the Union Pacific Road to the city of Belvedere, Boone County, Illinois. Could I have a motion to that effect, please? Motion by Alderman Snow, second by Alderman Albertini. Thank you. And any comments or questions regarding that motion on the floor? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Frank. Freeman. Gramkowski.
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Albertini,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Flurry.
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And item D, 9D, we have ordinance 642H in front of you for a second reading, that being an ordinance amending section 110-91 for stop sign at streets within the city of Belvedere Municipal Code to add West 5th Street at 5th Avenue as a one-way stop. If I could get a motion to that effect, please. Motion by Alderwoman Frank, second by Alderman Fleury. Thank you. Any questions, any concerns regarding that motion on the floor? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor to adopt ordinance 642H will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Freeman. Gramkowski,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Albertini,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And then we have item E, ordinance 643H in front of you for a second reading this evening. That being an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain personal property regarding city vehicles. I believe there's an attachment, Exhibit A, on the back of that. But it looks like we're going to have a clearinghouse, hopefully sale, to be able to get rid of these vehicles that do us no good no longer. So if I could have a motion to that effect, please. Motion by Alderman Albertini, second by Alderwoman Frank. Any questions, any comments regarding that motion on the floor? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to adopt 643H will answer aye when their name is called. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Gramkowski,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Albertini,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman. 9 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And then in front of you, we have item F, 644H for second reading. That being an ordinance granting a special use to allow roof above peak sign within the general business district located at 1910 North State Street. I would like a motion, if I could, for that approval. Motion by Alderman Snow, and a second, please. Anybody? Second by Alderwoman Gramkowski, thank you. And if there's any questions, if I can't answer them, Gina can, and if she can't, City Attorney might. Alderman Fleury.
Thank you. So it's my understanding that the Planning and Zoning Commission was voting against this, to have this car put on top of the roof. That was their recommendation?
There was a recommendation of denial. I do want to point out that there was only 4 Plan Commission members there, so they would have had to have a unanimous yes votes for it to be recommended approval, because it takes 4 yes votes. So even one no vote turns it into a recommendation of denial. It was not unanimous.
It was actually 3-1 in favor, but state law requires at least 4 aye votes to make a recommendation to the city council.
Right, and then wasn't there some concern about, I think, perhaps it wasn't, maybe somebody that was worried about the structural integrity of putting a car on top of a roof?
Yep, so there is a condition of approval that they have to submit plans to the building department, so Kip can review to make sure that structurally the roof is sound and that the way it's mounted is secure, that it meets wind loads and all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alderman Snow?
And did anybody from the residents or anybody else besides the specific applicant show up?
No, no one was in attendance at the public hearing, and I received no written or verbal communication from neighboring properties.
I would, Alderwoman Frank, yes.
Mine's just a minor question. So the height of it, is it going to be taller?
It's mounted on the roof.
No, I understand that, but I mean, is it going to be taller in reference to what we've already allowed? And so other people would want to do the same thing? Or is it just because it's the car that makes it
It's because it's on the roof. So you have two different kinds of signs. You have signs that are affixed to the building. We call that wall signage. And then you have freestanding signs, which are like pole signs. Pole signs can be up to 40 feet tall. This is nowhere close to a permitted pole sign. The code says if you are flush on the wall from the pitch of the roof down, that's permitted. If you're going above the pitch of the roof, then you need a special use. So this is going above the pitch of the roof. So it's not the overall height, it's just the location on the building that's triggering it.
Thanks for that clarification.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, any questions, any concerns? I will say that I know that Daniel has been a longtime business owner here in the community. I think we want our businesses within reason to be successful. I want them all to be successful, and I appreciate your business. And I also, a lot of people don't know this about Daniel, but I think I am going to share it with him because if I have shared it with you. But he does a lot for the community, especially he does a lot for veterans. And I know this because he had taken a veteran relative of mine over and refused. They needed care over at the VA, and he refused to take any payment for that. So I do appreciate that, Daniel, and I know that you operate a wonderful business, and anything that within reason that can make your business a success, I certainly support that. So thank you. And I'm going to be coming back to the council. I have we have an opening on the planning zoning, building planning zoning commission, and Mr. Brad Anderson had left, and so we have a vacancy there. It's again, when we look at filling these positions, it's not a position that I have people in this case flocking at my door to want an appointment to it, but I will be bringing back somebody who has a letter of interest with that position and asking you to consider them, and perhaps we wouldn't run into a shortfall vote because it was a majority vote, it just wasn't unanimous. So anyhow, you'll be seeing something in that regard, but anyhow, Alderman Albertini?
Yeah, I have one brief question. If we were to go ahead with this and let them do this, we wouldn't have any liability as council approving this, would we? Perchance something happens.
Absolutely not. You won't hear me say that very often. No, absolutely not.
Okay.
It's new to me, so I had to ask.
Jim, was the last time you heard an attorney say that?
Okay.
Pretty hardcore answer.
I guess there's not a lot of legal wiggle room in there, is there?
I think I've ever said that in this council.
Okay, we have a motion and a second then on the floor to approve an ordinance granting a special use to allow roof above peak sign within the general business district located at 1910 North State Street. If there's no other comments, all those in favor of the motion, will signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
McGee,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Albertini,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman, Gramkowski.
Aye.
9 in favor.
Okay, motion passed, thank you. And we have item G, ordinance 645H, as a second reading before you this evening. That being an ordinance granting a zoning district change from rural holding to a heavy industrial district located at 1686 US Route 20. Could I have a motion to that effect, please?
Moved.
Motion by Alderman Snow and a second by Alderwoman Mulhall. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, any comments regarding the motion on the floor? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor will signify by saying aye when their name is called. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Albertini,
Aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman, Gramkowski,
Aye.
McGee.
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And item 10, under new business, we have before you tonight item A, that being ordinance 646H for first reading, an ordinance authorizing the City of Belvedere Fine Police Commission to adopt new rules creating a continuous eligibility register for police officer candidates and other pre-hiring rules. You will see that that will be back before you on October 16th, 2 weeks. We also have item B, ordinance 647H as a first reading. That being an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain personal property, 2002 American LaFrance fire engine antique. And item C, we have ordinance 648 as a first reading. That being an ordinance amending section 74-215 of the City of Belvedere Municipal Code relating to outdoor burning. All three of those were first readings, and you will see them again on the 16th in 2 weeks. And we have in front of you item D, resolution number 2023, that being a resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with Boone County for the provision of a community law enforcement officer pursuant to the COSAP grant. If I could have a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderman Flurry and a second by Alderman McGee. Thank you. Any questions, any comments regarding the motion on the floor? I will say that we have had some interesting conversations in the past regarding the funding for this grant, and I want to thank the Health Department. Amanda's here, Ms. Meals here, thank you. That has been clarified, and if you flip the page over from the cover, you will see under compensation, which is a big deal. It's a big deal for the City of Belvedere. You will see that that has been clarified, been rectified, and myself, I don't have any other concerns with this, but the floor is open. Okay. Hearing no other questions or comments, all those in favor of the motion on the floor will answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Snow,
Aye.
Albertini,
Aye.
Brereton,
No.
Flurry,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman, Gramkowski,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Mulhall.
Aye.
7 in favor.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you. And the motions forwarded from Committee of the Whole, Public Safety, Finance, Personnel of September 25th, 2023. Motions out of Public Safety. Chairman Fleury.
Thank you. A, motion to approve the street closure request from the Belvedere Fire Department for State Street at north end of the bridge to Leonard Court on Sunday, October 8th from 12:15 p.m. to 4:15 p.m. for the annual Fire Department open house.
Okay, we have that motion out of committee. If there's any questions for Chairman Fleury or anyone else? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor will signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Albertini?
Aye.
Brereton?
Aye.
Flurry?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Freeman? Gramkowski?
Aye.
McGee?
Aye.
Mulhall?
Aye.
Snow?
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed, thank you. And Chairman Fleury, item B.
B, motion to approve the street closure request from the Belvedere Area Chamber of Commerce for State Street from Lincoln Avenue to First Street, as well as Logan Avenue between State and Main Street, and First Street from State to Garfield Avenue on Friday, December 1st, 2023, between 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. for Hometown Christmas.
Okay, we have that motion out of committee. Any questions, any concerns, any comments regarding the motion on the floor? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion will, when their name is called, answer aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Brereton?
Aye.
Flurry?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Freeman? Gramkowski?
Aye.
McGee?
Aye.
Mulhall?
Aye.
Snow?
Aye.
Albertini?
Aye.
9 in favor.
Motion passed. Thank you, Chairman Fleury. And motions out of Finance and Personnel, Chairwoman Frank.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to consent to the appointment of Steve Pierce to the Ida Public Library Board of Trustees to fill a current vacancy on the board, which term will expire on July 1st, 2025.
Okay, we have that motion out of committee. Alderman Snow, you have some comment?
Yes, I make a motion to amend and make the recommendation of what the library board had sent forward, which was Teresa Hint.
You can't do that, Mr. Snow. It's a mayoral appointment by state statute. You're limited to consenting or not consenting to his appointment. No different than appointed to the Police and Fire Commission or any other commission.
Okay, on that note, I'll be voting no.
Does this have anything to do with the individual that you're in a relationship with regarding?
It has.
Regarding on the library board?
It has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Thank you for
I've been going to the board meetings probably since 2010, and this is the first time there's ever been a deviation from going through the recommendation of what the board vets and brings people forward.
Well, Alderman Snow, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. Any other comments? Any questions? All right, Alderwoman Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor. So, we had a gentleman from the board come up here and speak, and he voiced concerns, and I think we should actually consider those concerns. When a precedent is set, I believe it should be followed, and I was remiss to hear that there was a candidate that the board had vetted and wasn't brought to us for I don't know what reason, but the roundabout way, I think, that this is being brought to us, I don't think that it was above board, and I will vote accordingly.
Alderwoman Freeman, it's my appointment to make, and let me clarify that. It is above board. That isn't the only individual that I've had. Sometimes I don't get any. Sometimes I get, in this case, several. And so, it's within, I'm not trying to hire by, I'm not trying to make a promotion by, making sure that I cover all the bases with who might be satisfied with the individual and who may not. I don't know. All I do is I try and get somebody that I believe would be a great individual. If I'm wrong in the individual that I've submitted to the council, if there's something about them, no matter who it is, if there's something about them, then judge it on that face value. That's all. And, there's nothing with any of these appointments. I try and get them, and I try and make them. In this case, I'm entitled to present to the council a suggestion as to who I think would be good. Would anybody else be good? Sure, they probably would be. I'm not saying anybody's not. I'm just asking if the council would go ahead and vote on the individual that I presented to them. If that individual gives you heartburn or a reason to not, then I guess you would vote no accordingly. Alderwoman Frank.
Well, there's other boards that are by election. I mean, it could go by election and then it would just be, I mean, I'm not saying that we have it that way,
Right.
but it would be even harder because you'd have to be by elected by the population.
Alderman Snow?
So, again, since you've been alderman and mayor, the library board has always brought forward people. The library is the go-to through when the vacancies are open. To the best of my knowledge, they advertise it. And a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, sometimes they have a pool of people who were already interested and had pre-apped, showing interest. To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Pierce didn't go through that process, and I personally think it's disingenuous not to have brought forward the name that the library board, and I'm assuming you did get that information because I was under the understanding that you asked not to have it put on and you were going to appoint your own person.
No, that's not true. Again, that's not true. And I will, let me also correct you, is that in the past I have received from the library board candidates that they have suggested that I appoint. I have not had any other interest in that, and I've appointed them. The fact is that it's my appointment to make to the council. If the individual is not worthy of serving this community, and in this case, Mr. Pierce has been in the community since 2007, I believe. Actually, longer than that. He's a 28-year resident of Belvedere. But he has put forth a letter of interest. You can vote him up or down. I mean, I think I don't know what's the matter with him, but and there's nothing the matter with anybody else either. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor then to consent to the appointment of Steve Pierce to the Ida Public Library Board of Trustees to fill a current vacancy on the board, which term will expire on July 1st, 2025. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Any opposed, nay. As the clerk calls the roll, please.
Fleury,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Freeman, Gramkowski,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Mulhall,
Aye.
Snow,
No.
Albertini,
The way it's presented to me, I guess I have to vote aye.
Brereton,
Aye.
Okay,
7 in favor.
motion passed, thank you. And I believe that's all we have on the agenda this evening. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Motion by Alderwoman Frank, second by Alderman Albertini. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? For the record, we adjourned at 7:29 PM. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.